we're going to begin looking at the close-ups of the Muean Siarn of the Pra Pong Prai Kumarn or Long Tong with golden flakes in Pong Prai Kumarn with Khaay from Luang Phu Tim of Wat Laharn Rai. And perhaps first we might just have a look at the actual amulet itself, which I have overexposed in these photos a little bit, so I'll switch to, you can see this actually in Nuea Chompoo, slightly pinkish powders. When they come out pinkish like this, it's called Nuea Chompoo, Chompoo meaning pink. So Nuea Pong Prai Kumarn, Nuea Chompoo, Long Tong with golden flakes, which was made by putting gold flakes and naman pajao tangsin oil inside the block press, and when they press the wet clay into the block press, then the oil and the golden flakes will impress themselves into the clay of the amulet. Yeah. And on the rear face we can see the fluffy Pong Prai Kumarn rising up through the golden coating, and the younger Pong Khaay or younger Bok Khaay or Yan Ongk Prat, and some say Yan Paputa Jau Ha Praong, because it has the kata Namo Puttaya inside it, and above Isawasu and Nama'u around it in the middle and each side and below it, which is a very common Buddhist Puttakom kata, Puttakom. And here we can see more the true colors, because in the hand the colors are not as realistic as in these photos, and you can see the different tonalities of the Pong Prai Kumarn and the Nuea Chompoo, the pinkish color, which could be a mixture of pumpkin mark, the cement used for eating betel and areca nuts, but in this case I believe to be a mildew. There is one form of mildew also seen on the Prat Krueang and on some Prat Somdet amulets and various other amulets that under certain environmental conditions the sacred powders take on a pinkish tone because of mildew. And look at the rear face. You can see inside a bit of the powder poking through. You can see inside is actually white, which is what surprises a lot of people. But there's a big difference between the white Muean Siarn of Luang Phu Tim and white Muean Siarn of fake amulets. Fake amulets will be plaster of Paris or just white powders with little black dots in it. And the Muean Siarn of Luang Phu Tim is full of counterpart, which is sacred sticky rice, and pong lop, and separates because of the different densities of the molecules, the different sizes of the molecules of each powder. It's a bit like pigment paint. They have different size molecules, and some of them don't mix together very well, which is what causes the difference in the tonality. As you can see around the edges, you see more pinkish, and in the center, where it's come less into contact with the environment, is still covered with the gold flakes. And here we see the certificate. This one is number 0227, and it was awarded its certificate on Sunday the 12th of August in 2561 BE, which happens to be the Queen Mother's birthday also, so that's Mother's Day in Thailand. So it was blessed on Mother's Day in 2561 BE, and carries the series number, certificate number 0227, This is the Pim Siarn Lek small head version, which is much rarer than the Pim Siarn Dto. Yeah, and you can see I've placed the amulet in the middle of the certificate, and the photos in the certificate come out much greener or much more brownish. That's because of different light with different cameras. So in the show they used a different camera under a different light, and I use a different light with a different camera. This particular photo actually catches about as realistic one can get with photography and lighting. It's very difficult to photograph sacred powder and amulets, indeed. And that's why I use a macro lens, which we shall be coming to. But this is more or less, to the naked eye, the amulet will look more or less like this. Yeah. More or less like this. Yeah. You can see. Lots of Pong Prai Kumarn, Chompoo, the pinkish tone. Highly preferred. It's very rare to find in Chompoo. It's, I suppose, perhaps the rarest color. And no, blue is the rarest color. But Chompoo is also a very rare color. I very much like this amulet. It's Jat hang, very dry from its aging. Yeah, and seeing from different angles, we can see the relief. This is Pim Siarn Dto. You will have the yand on the back here. You can find with thin lines and with thicker lines. Yeah, I see the edges. The Pim Siarn Lek, the head is smaller than the Pim Siarn Dto, and as I said, very much rarer to find than the Siarn Dto, the larger head version, and it's slimmer. It's a slimmer amulet. It's not as thick, and it's more highly preferred, not just because of its rarity, but because of the higher detail and the higher likeness to Luang Phu Tim himself. Because the Pim Siarn Dto actually has more of a kind of looks more like Luang Phu Tuat, which actually, who knows, Luang Phu Tim, what was intended with the difference in design in those amulets. But the Pim Siarn Lek is most definitely a direct likeness of Luang Phu Tim, and the Pim Siarn Dto is more of a representative likeness of Luang Phu Tim and looks much more like his carved amulets in his likeness, which are more less detailed, whereas the Siarn Lek, you can see the details of the eyes and the ears and the mouth and the jifara robe, the hands, the fingers, the toes, the what I would call the drapes underneath the dais upon which he sits. Yeah, and the younger Pong Prai, you can see the fullness of the khao niao suk, sticky rice, and the Pong Prai Kumarn fluffing up through the golden surface of the amulet. And here we lose the golden tone because of the closeness of the light, which gives this false purplish effect. Although if you look at it under the eye loop in your own house, under white Philips light or yellow house light, you will see you'll get a different effect, and daylight. House light and daylight are much more golden effect. If you use the white Philips lights, you will see this more pinkish. It's actually the pinky powders, but the camera has given it a more purpley tone. It's actually more light pink. And just in the middle here, you can see greenish color. It looks light blue. It's actually much more of a malachite green color, just as seen here in this face here. This piece here is much more like the green here. Yeah, the sticky rice and the Pong Prai Kumarn reacting. It's very wonderful to see this amulet because of the Nuea Chompoo, Hopun Mark, the pinkish powders, and the golden flakes. You can see how this is not tar bronze, meaning with bronze painted. You can see it's gold flakes which have stuck to the wet clay as they were pressed into the thin layer of oil within the block press, which had been sprinkled with golden flakes. And in that case, you don't call tar bronze, you call Long Sai Ra Tong Kam. This Long Sai Ra Tong Kam, which does not cover the whole surface and allows the powders to react and poke through and gives such a wonderful appearance. It's not just majestic with the golden coating, it's also very powerful. Feels very powerful with the age of the powders and the various sacred Muean ingredients visible arising through the surface. Thai people believe that when the powders rise to the surface like this, that it is a sign of the power of the amulet, of the empowerment. And if we see again what I said about this greenish color and the marbled effect here around his nose and his mouth, that is the khao niao suk, the sticky rice, yeah, and also which gives this slightly bubbly effect to the surface, the bubbled effect on the surface here, yeah, and I have a closer look. It's a little bit blurry, but you can see, and the pink powders on the top here. Can see very much here above, around here, above the head, this here, very pinkish, also on the arch here, very pinkish, and look at the edge. You can see all sorts of particles, pinkish, greenish, whitish, brown, wan, herbal powders. You can see the green visible again here on the bottom right, and you can see the pinkish powders going right inside to the edge here, and here a darker color of wan, and here is the greenish piece and the broken piece within the surface of the Yan Kabong Khaay on the rear face, which appears blue in the photo, but it's actually more greenish. It's more greenish. This is the letter S in Com, the Sa for Sawa. It actually has a crescent moon under it, which is the Sawa from Isoaso, which lies to above left of the Yant on the rear face. And here, always very interesting to examine, is that on the rear face of fake amulets, they will be completely straight, as if they were just cut with a razor blade, whereas authentic hand-pressed amulets of this era, and the Kun Pen 15 in particular, in this case, you will see Nuea. In this case, you can see raised edges where they have pulled the amulet out of the block press, and the wet clay has stuck to the block press and caused the edge to become raised, like a ridge. Sometimes you get an extra bit so raised that the person pressing it will actually fold it inwards. So sometimes around here you might see a flap, like a wing of extra clay folded over the back of the amulet. And sometimes they just cut it off. Here was probably folded. This area was probably folded and maybe broke, or maybe they cut it off. Yeah. And once more, a close look at the edge. And you can see so many various particles, green, brown, pink. What I say brown, it's actually pinkish, brownish pink. We call pink in Thai, Chompoo. But you can see the green, the Pong Prai Kumarn reacting with the Pong Lop. And Nuea, you can see this dry, powdery effect. It looks as if it would flake off, but it does not. It is old and hard. It is just that it did not densify in a very, very dry situation rather than in a humid situation, which caused it to dry with the powdery effect instead of the marbled effect that some amulets take on. Once again, blue but actually green. Like in the middle here, you can see green here. These pieces here are also green. It is the photo. Here we can see the real green. This photo is correct. This photo is correct. You can see this piece where the gold flag, a slight break on the surface of the yantra is visible, and you can see the green color. Yeah, you can see here is where I've had the Philips light, so it doesn't look so golden. And here is where I'm using normal light. And this is a very high close-up of the surface, and you can see the pinkish effect very, 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 very well indeed. And I think I'll finish by looking at these close-ups to see the sticky rice. You can see in this bubbly effect here, in the Pong Prai Kumarn. And here you can see again, especially here, the sticky rice. You can see, and around its hands you can see the Chompoo, the pinkish powders appearing, and on the arch the pinkish powders, and on the flame of the arch with these greenish white Pong Prai Kumarn powders poking through. How wonderful to see both pink and white present, and the greenish tone of the Pong Prai Kumarn, and the marbled texture in some parts of the surface where sticky rice is present. The details of the O and the Ma and the A around him. Ma, A, O. Ma, Mo, Maha, Sanko, the Dhamma, the Sangha, A, Arahang, the Buddha, O, Uttama Dhammo, the Dhamma, with Luang Phu. Very, 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 very powerful looking with this Pong Prai Kumarn. Very fluffy, just how I like it. With these pink powders showing through, is very, the tonality of it attracts my eye so very much. And lastly here, to look at his folded hands above the dais, and the pink powders and the Pong Prai Kumarn pushing it up to the surface. Here's some green here again, Pong Prai Kumarn poking through the Sai Re Tong Kam. And as I said, a very, very rare amulet indeed. The Prat Roop Muean, Pong Prai Kumarn Pim Siarn Lek of Luang Phu Tim, Wat Laharn Rai. Extremely rare amulet indeed, especially even compared to the Pim Siarn Dto, of which only few were made. Yeah, there's a beautiful picture of the arch and the surface, and only few were made. Yeah. And look at this green Pong Prai Kumarn in the doormat within the center of the Yan Kabong Khaay. Sorry, this doormat here, this one is this one. This doormat, you can see the green Pong Prai Kumarn. Here you see the pink and green. Here you see green. And most beautiful amulet from Luang Phu Tim. You know, the Pra Pong Prai Kumarn Pim Siarn Lek Luang Phu Tim, Wat Laharn Rai. So, Ajahn Spencer for the Buddha Magic Project and for Amulets TV, signing off.